Hi everyone, I'm Lauren and welcome to this Facebook Live. Today I am going to show you a few Lemon Lane demos using the Mother's Love fabric. Firstly, we have the Devotion pattern fabric. It is cut by the metre and our price is £17.99, and if you're a Robin's Nest member it will come out at £16.19. And the next is the Everlasting pattern fabric. It's cut by the metre, again £17.99, and Robin's Nest member price is £16.19. And we've got the Heartfelt pattern fabric, again cut by the metre, £17.99 and £16.19 for Robin's Nest members. Sincerity pattern fabric, it's again cut by the metre, £17.99, and if you're a Robin's Nest member it is £16.19. We've got the Tenderness pattern fabric, by the metre is £17.99 and available to the Robin's Nest members for £16.19. Adoration pattern fabric, it's £17.99 for a metre and Robin's Nest members price get it at £16.19. And if you wanted to become a Robin's Nest member, it is £24 for a 12-month membership. Benefits include 10% off all purchases of the Highlight website, plus free delivery on all orders over £25, plus early access to web exclusives, plus a lot of lovely goodies and doodads for pin badges and lanyards. So I have to start off by saying I am doing my very first Facebook Live. So I am very nervous, so please bear with me while we get on with some of these demos. Firstly, we're going to start by doing a hanging heart decoration using the Adoration fabric. So first of all, I have cut out the two of these patterned hearts using the largest of the fundamental hearts. So if you haven't got these heart fundamental dies, you will see on screen that they are available at £22.99, and for Robin's Nest members it is £20.69. So once we've got these cut out, firstly what you want to be doing is putting them face to face, so the pattern sides together, and making sure that everything is lined up correctly. I have a little strand of ribbon, and also I need to fold this into two, like so, and then put it on the central piece, overlapping that top peak, and then squishing it all in like a sandwich to create, well, what will be the loop when it all turns through. So we're going to take our sewing machine now and to be able to sew it all together. So I'm going to try and capture the ribbon in before we even start. So I'm going to start at the top of the heart. You can see everything is under there. So I'm going to just slowly use the sewing machine to go all the way around. And you'll see that I'm just slowly rotating the fabric round as we go. So you'll follow the edge of the fabric to create a nice smooth shape. And I'm just going to stop at that corner just so I can turn. So you see I lift up the foot and lower it just while I've turned the fabric. And then off we go again. Keep turning. And I'm going to stop it there and leave a gap so I can turn it through. So just removing the excess thread. So you can see I have my sewn through heart. So now I'm going to turn it the right way around. Just bear with me. Of course, as soon as the camera's on, I can't do it. So you can see that I've got one end of the ribbon already showing through, so I didn't catch that on my first pass. I can do that when I'm hand stitching together, so that's not a problem. So what I try and do with these is just make sure all of the corners are out nice and sharp, and I can do that by pushing my hand straight through and pushing right into the corners. I can also get a pencil or a little knitting needle, anything that you've got that's not particularly sharp, just to get right in there into the corners and everything like that. But I'm just carefully pushing out all of the fabric, just so then all the seams are nice and at the edge. So you'll see that I've started to get a nice shape coming through. So at this point, I can see that I've got a nice little heart shape. So I've left this gap here, which I'm going to hand sew up in a minute. This will go back into here where I will catch it into my hand sewing. And at this point, what I could do is add in a small bag of lavender, so it would be scented. You could always ignore the ribbon completely and create a little pin cushion. But for now, what we're going to do is create like a little door hanging so it can hang off your door handle. So I'm going to stuff it now using some of the stuffing I've got to the side. So personally, I like to make sure it's nice and densely packed, but this is down to personal choice. You could leave it slightly looser so it's a bit more squishy, or you could make it have like a really sharp, a really full shape by stuffing it completely tight. Of course, again, can't do it while everyone's watching. Put a little bit more in. So you'll see now that we've got a nice padded heart. Shows off that rose really nicely. So I'm going to just take a needle when I can grab it, and I'm going to make sure that my ribbon is nice and placed inside that open seam now. So you can see that I've created that loop again now. So what I want to do is take my needle and thread and then like carefully thread through to close up the seam. So I've done it at the top because admittedly I'm not the neatest of hand sewer especially, so I would rather hide my seam at the top where the ribbon is actually sitting, so it actually avoids everything, to hide any stitching that I would rather be hidden. You could do it at the bottom if you find that easier, so it could be along this straight edge here because that's nice and easy. The other option, of course, is to do it across the top like I am. And again, if you're not putting the ribbon in. And of course, I am now putting all of the effort into stitching that I can't talk, I'm sorry. This is where a montage would be really great. So just stitching up here. So all I'm doing is trying to create a closed up gap. So this is just me going up and over a few times over just to tighten that gap so you can't see any of the stuffing through. And we're about there. Just one more. Oh, and I've managed to miss it. Oh no. Oh goodness. So yeah, here's a good opportunity for me to show you my errors. So I'm going to just pull this open slightly so I can put that ribbon back in and just make sure that my last stitch catches that ribbon, because we want a loop that is nice and secure. See, the good thing about this stitching is that as soon as there is a little room for manipulating and changing and editing as we go, so it'll be nice and easy to continue on with. So off we go. I've caught it this time, so we know we're definitely going through the ribbon. So there we go. And I would say we're about here. I'll just trim off my threads. Nice and close. So now we've got a hanging heart. So that's going on my door handle as soon as I'm done with this. So the second thing I've got to show you is actually I'm going to do a hair scrunchie. So we'll be able to put our hair up. But firstly, I just wanted to remind you about the fundamental heart dies. There's 12 dies included and our price is £22.99, but of course if you're a Robin's Nest member, it is £20.69. So right now we're going to have a look through all of the fabrics. We're going to start with Adoration because that's the one I have just used. So I've got it in front of me as well so we can have a proper look. So this is the by the meter. So you can see I'm folding it out and it's just keep going. So we've got it here, it's quite fast. So this is 1 meter, it's already cut out ready. But you can see that the pattern is continuous, it's lovely, it's repeatable of course, but we've got these lovely big roses on there and then scattered in with some smaller ones. But you can see that the fabric is actually really hardy, it's strong, it's durable, it would make a great pair of curtains. Obviously you can see that we've done cushions with it before. We've made the smaller projects like my heart. It's so versatile. You'd be able to create anything you wanted using this fabric. Some structured clothing, some structured garments, that would be amazing to see. But yeah, this one's incredible. So next we've got Tenderness. So again, it is £17.99 for the meter and Robin's Nest members price gets it at £16.19. So again, you can see that this one is so lovely. Another repeatable pattern, of course, and it's just as hardy as the previous one. They're all on this really thick fabric, so you'll be able to create everything and anything you wanted to. So the colour in this one is just incredible. It's so like dense and lovely. It's just, there's so much going on. The rose, the bunch here, like you can see the main design here is significant in size. So you'll be able to cut that out and use it as a plique. There is also so many other options for this. The next one is Sincerity. So this one is one I'm going to use next for my next project. And this one itself is a bit more heavily patterned than the previous ones, as you can see that the design is actually smaller. But I think that gives a really nice difference to the fabrics. This one is a lot more summery colours, so I think it would be lovely to have as a like using the garden set. I can just picture some bunting and cushion pads for this. Yeah, this one's incredible. So next we've got Heartfelt. So the Heartfelt pattern fabric is £17.99 and Robin's Nest members price is £16.99. So this one is a gorgeous pink one. We've got lovely reds and white flowers in here, and again it's that thick durable fabric. It's just speaks for itself really. It's got these really lovely borders that can be used for anything really. If you was to do some ribbons and create your own ribbons or runners, these would create really lovely borders and edges, as well as the all over pattern design that is going on with it. Next is Everlasting. So this one is a more purple based fabric pattern with, again, lots and lots of flowers on it, and all of these are again quite a substantial size, so a plique would be perfect. It also has inside, you can see like there's depth of some sort of opacity in the background, so it's got 2 layers of flowers in it. But yeah, again, you'd be able to create curtains, cushions, any project you could think of. Of course, all of these can be die cut as well. So yeah, we could do a lot of things. And lastly, there is Devotion. So we have this really lovely white and red flowers going on a white background. And again, all of the pattern, and it just keeps on going. But yeah, with this all being seamless, of course, any sort of big projects, it will all just be nicely repeated. You'd be able to create all of the projects you have in mind. There is also the textured colour fabric. This one is Iris. Again, it is $17.99 for the metre. Robin's Nest members it is $16.19. And we've got the blush fabric, so that's the pink textured fabric. That's by the metre, again $17.99 and £16.19 for Robin Nest members. And then the lovely peachy. So this is textured fabric again by the metre. It's $17.99, and then Robin's Nest members price is £16.19. These are all designed to be matched perfectly with all of the other fabrics. All of these together look so nice in one project. You'd be able to mix and match however you feel. And again, if you want to become a Robin's Nest member, it is £24 for the 12-month membership, and benefits include the 10% off all purchases from the Highlight website, plus free delivery on all orders over £25, and early access to web exclusives. You get a Robin's Nest lanyard, pin badges, and much, much more. So I'm going to start with my next project. On this one, we are actually making a hair scrunchie. This one's just to be a little bit different, and hopefully it's something you've not seen before. So first of all, we're going to take a long strip of fabric. So this one is using Sincerity, which we just saw earlier. What I've done is I've cut a large rectangle. This one is, it only needs to be rough because obviously all of this gets scrunched into one size anyway. So we're at 62 centimetres by 12. So if you had something that would be similar to that, that would be perfect. So this one's super simple. So all we do is we fold right sides together, long ways in half. So then what we want to do is go onto the sewing machine and sew all the way down this one long edge, so we end up with like a really long tube. What you want to make sure you do is go backwards a few stitches just as we start off, because it just strengthens it when we turn it through. So off we go. And we just want to feed this nice and straight. So I've left a little gap at the edge of this one just to make it a little easier for me to turn it through. So I didn't completely tie it all the way up, but that's okay. So now it's just a case of turning through. Now this can be a little fiddly, so I just find it a bit easier to make sure that I can get my thumb in between and then just roll it down my thumb. So it'll just take me a little while, just because I'm not the greatest at turning through under pressure. Ooh. Here we go. We can see it's starting to come through now. So while my thumb is on the inside of that tube, I'm just trying to use it to take some grip of the fabric on the inside, so I can just roll it out. If I keep hold of the tabs that I left loose at the top, it means that we've just got a bit more room to play with. There we go, not far off now. Nearly there. I've made some of these in the past where they've been so small and so thin that I've had to lose my rag, literally, with turning these things through, because yeah, I'm not the most delicate. And there we go. So now we have one long tube with all of the right sides facing out. So that's us ready to put the elastic through. So firstly, I'm going to take a stretch of elastic. What we want to do is make sure that it is shorter than this. So that's just so then it's got a bit of stretch to it, but also this so it all scrunches up around this. So if I take about this sort of size, which is roughly, get the right end, that would be great. So it's roughly 30 centimetres. So that just gives me a nice big loop, but also enough to be able to tie it off as well. So we're going to take our fabric and start threading it over. Now, there's no great way of doing this. I'm actually going to tie it on to my seam picker, just because I am an absolute nightmare and I will end up letting go. So it's just a bit easier to find something to thread it on to. If you was to put a safety pin onto this, you could also do that quite easily, and then you've got something to grab at the other end. So you can see I am now starting to roll down my, put my seam picker through the tube, being gentle not to obviously poke the sharp end through, but it just means I've got a little bit of room. So I'm going to keep hold of this end of the elastic and keep threading that guy through. So you can see it's already starting to scrunch up quite nicely. Nearly there. So here we are, the other end. And now I've got to one-handedly undo that knot. Oh no, oh no. So here's what I said earlier when I was going to let go. So of course I've got to now start all over again. Unfortunately, I'm sorry you guys, you're gonna have to wait for me to thread this one back over. Hopefully it won't take me too long. So of course I've managed to undo my knot now. Goodness. There we go. So my knot is back tied, and again, I'm back feeding through. Don't worry if you did let go of the elastic, we'll be tying it off next, and just when you rethread, don't forget to not let go. So learning from my mistakes last time, I'm going to ignore that knot and just tie it off around that anyway. So I'm now tying a knot just nice and tight, just to make sure it doesn't fall apart later. So now I've got a knot there and then 2 loose ends, but you can see I've already got my scrunchie all there and ready. So all we've got to do is just tuck in that knot just inside all of the tube. So that's nice and tucked in. And then with the raw edges, which you can see at at both ends. So I'm going to tuck those in, straight in like that. So we've got a nice little overlap, but I'm also going to try, it's a little fiddly, but I'm going to fold over the outside of that tube, just so then it's got a nice neat fold. So that will hide the raw edges, so when I sew it over it'll look quite nice and neat. So I'm going to go back to my sewing machine and then just do a nice little line all the way down that line there. So I'll do that now. So what you want to do is just make sure that your machine is going slowly, so don't rush this bit because it's a bit thick. So of course I've got that bit done. Get my needle out of the way, cut off my strands and trim off the nice raw edges. So just cut off all of your excess threads and then that'll be us done. So you could leave it here. So you can see I've got a nice scrunched up scrunchie right there, so I could put that in my hair right now. But I'm also going to show you how to create like a little bow just to hide this raw edge, you know, this new sewn line. It just makes it look a little neater. So I'm going to cut another square of the Sincerity fabric. So it is roughly 25 centimetres by 20. This is great for your scrap busting, so if you've got a little bit left over, you can always cut out a smaller piece. As you can see, mine is cut not very square, and that's just because it was part of another part of a project, so it's just my leftovers. So I'm going to fold it in half, one right sides together, and I'm going to take my tailor's chalk. You can use pencil, pen, whatever you've got to hand, but I've got some tailor's chalk just to draw it on. So what you want to do is kind of draw a really rough shape that kind of looks like this. The good thing with this is that it doesn't really matter what kind of shape it ends up being, whether it's wonky, whether it's smaller at one half than the other, or wider or thinner, it doesn't matter. What you want to do is just kind of create this kind of almost like a goggle shape, and then we're not cutting. Look at me getting too eager with the scissors. What I'm going to do is try and create the easiest way to do it is by using this sewing line to be able to sew around it on the sewing machine. That will create a big seam, but we'll cut that off later and turn it through. It'll make it so much easier. So if you then follow that line on your sewing machine, and again, remember to leave a gap to be able to turn it through later, and just follow it really gently and nice and slowly. And just remember to stop with your needle down in the sharp corners, like so. Lift the foot, rotate the fabric, and then carry on. And then to follow it round, it creates this nice little bunny shape, and that's just to create like a little bow that'll go around around the scrunchie itself. So as you can see, I'm kind of freehanding this. Oh, And my thread has unthreaded. Oh no. So here's another tip, is make sure that your thread stays threaded all the way around. So I'm going to have to just check through my machine and just feed it all the way around. Of course, all of this had to happen on today, didn't it? But it's fine. So I'm just going to thread up this machine and hopefully that goes okay. There we go. So it might take a few attempts just to get it through the eye of the needle. But once it's there, it makes it so much easier. And there we go. We are back and up and rolling. So I've got to just trace it back and find out where I finished. So as I can see, I carried on going down here and it stopped about here. So I'm just going to carry on just from there, make sure I overlap a few stitches and go back just to recover what happened. But it's all fine, and we'll just carry on. So again, I'm just stopping, making sure needle's down, lifting the foot slightly, rotate round, and then carry on again. So all I'm doing is just feeding the fabric round just nice and gently, so then it can move quite free-handedly around. So now I'm done with that one. I've left a gap, and now I'm going to cut around this shape. So it is all sewn up, it is all ready to go, and I've left a gap here. So I'll be able to thread that through. Oh no, here's where I've chosen bad scissors. So because this fabric is so substantial, I've not chosen some thick enough scissors really. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through the single layer of fabric first, just to make it come off easy. And then what I'll do is I'll go through the second layer. And then, yeah, it just makes it so much easier to turn through by not having all of this fabric, but then leaving it on to sew with is just so much easier because you've got a lot to hold on to instead of it being a really tiny, delicate shape. It gives you a bit more opportunity to see what's going on the machine. So I'm nearly there. And last bit. So as you can see, I have now cut it all out and we're now ready to turn through. Again, need smaller, delicate fingers for this. Just looking for my seam picker again. I'm going to use that one to poke everything through because it just gives it a little bit more . So with this I'm using the handle because obviously we don't want the seam picker top to come through because it's quite sharp. But this just helps me push through where I can't reach. So I'm just trying to massage out the corners. And then you can see that we've got one side of the bow. So we've just got to feed out the other side and then we should be about there. Okay. So while I'm poking all of this through, I'm going to walk you through the patterns that we've got, well, the pattern fabric that we've got on the show. So firstly, we've got the Sincerity, which is what I'm using for this scrunchie. It's cut by the metre, it is £17.99. For Robin's Nest members, it is £16.19. Next is Tenderness, again by the metre, it's £17.99, and Robin's Nest is £16.19. We've got also Adoration, so that's the one that I used in the previous demo. That one is also cut by the metre. It's £17.99 and Robin's Nest members is £16.19. We've got Heartfelt. It's £17.99 for the metre, and then Robin's Nest members price is £16.19. And Everlasting, which is the purple one, it's lovely, and it's cut by the metre. It's £17.99 and it's £16.19 for Robin's Nest. Devotion, it's cut by the metre and £17.99, and its Robin's Nest members price is £16.19. So I finally managed to poke all of this through. So this is what we have. It's kind of like a little bit of bunny ear kind of effect. So what we're going to do is take our scrunchie, find the seam that we sewed up earlier, which mine's there at the top. I'm going to wrap it round and then simply tie a little knot. So the good thing about this one is that my knot actually hides the open gap of my bunny ears as well. So there we have it. So it's a big, very big scrunchie, but you'll be able to wrap your hair up nice and tight with that. So I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for bearing with me as it was my first Facebook Live. If you did want any of the fabrics that I have used on these demos, please click the link that is in the link on the post for this video. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back soon.